but I'll try. Oh, cool. So yeah, my sister Andrea Wallace, or she goes by Annie, and like some of the coaches in her downline, like Brooke Reed and Christina Cashman, and they kind of like took the lead on like the team call every Tuesday. And Kelsey, I see Kelsey on here Tuesday at 12:30 Eastern. So they wanted me to like hop on this week and talk about mindset. And one of the things I love talking about. And actually, if you guys are watching the recording, you guys might probably missed like a little conversation that Natalie and I were having right before I hit record. But we were talking about the mindset that's a little bit different than the Success Club mindset. I think when I first became a coach, there was no Success Club. There was no focus on selling. There was no focus on rank. There was no focus on elite. Like really the focus was like sharing. They used to call it 2 exposures a day, which was like a terrible term to use. Like go out and expose yourself to 2 people every day. It was kind of 2 exposures a day. Like use a third-party tool, like share something about the workouts or supplements or the coaching opportunity. Just share with 2 people a day. That was the training. And there basically was like, besides that, it was be here a year from now. So 2 exposures a day and be here a year from now. And the big picture is if you share with 2 people a day and you don't get caught up in the yeses, you don't get caught up in selling, it's kind of inevitable that after a year or 2, you're gonna eventually find and develop those like 2 or 3 gold ships, true leaders. And that's what creates full-time, long-term income, is developing those 2 or 3 real leaders that are becoming leaders of leaders. And I think sometimes, since Success Club became invented later on, after I had been a coach for a few years, then Success Club, I think that, I think Success Club's great, that it helps people focus on like talking to new people, doing your invites, follow-ups, bringing in new people. But I think when coaches only are focused on Success Club, they're missing the big picture. And if they miss Success Club 1 month, they're like demoralized and they completely fall off track because they're not focused on the right thing. They're so focused on Success Club, they're not focused on the big picture. So if they're focused on the bigger picture of those, sharing with 2 people a day, being here a year from now, then if they miss Success Club, they don't really give a shit. Like it's not like a big deal because that's not what their main focus is. Their focus isn't on hitting Success Club every single month so that they can walk across stage at Summit. Their focus is on creating a long-term sustainable income. At least that was what attracted me to the business. I wasn't attracted by the idea of a revolving door business where I'm selling to 3 new people a month, but then I'm not really putting in time with those people and they're, then I'm just moving on to the next 3 people. And I have this just Success Club business, which is great, but I'm not creating any community. I'm not creating any culture, and I'm not getting people that are sticking around. That's that revolving door business. So I think there's like the mindset has to have a good balance of both. A balance of, like I want to be bringing in new people. And that's what the 2 exposures a day, the 2 invites a day. Because if you say, oh, you got to invite 100 people a day, like who's going to do that for a extended period of time? But if you teach your team to just share with 2 people a day, invite 2 people a day, anybody can do that. And then they get in this routine of like feeling successful because they're checking their box for the day. They did their 2 invites. Whereas like 98% of coaches don't invite at all, consistently, because they're like, oh man, I got to do invites. And it's like this huge effort to like get on and invite like 100 people. Whereas if they just were focused on 2 invites a day, now that creates like some momentum. And they're also not focused on making $1 million right away. They're not focused on hitting Success Club every single month. Yeah, Success Club's going to come some months, but they're more focused on just getting my 2 exposures a day, being proof the products work, and being here a year from now, doing my personal development. Like those were the things that were instilled in me that I think helped me become successful. I think if I had signed up as a coach today and got introduced to the business with a culture of Success Club is the end all be all, I don't even know I would have, if I would have, I don't think I'd still be a coach probably, because it would have been just not something I was excited about. The thing that was exciting to me was being proof the products work and personal development. Like that's number one. Number two was connecting with people and just sharing with 2 people every day. I could, no matter how many hours I was working at my CPA job, even if on the weeks where I was working 70 hours a week, I could invite 2 people each day. Or they called it, 2 exposures. I could get 2 exposures a day, no matter how many hours. Like even if it was like the last thing I did right before bed, I could send out 2 invites. And so that always made me feel like I was doing a good job with the business, because I was told 2 exposures a day and just be consistent with your own journey and just do it for 5 years. And I was like, okay, I can do personal development. I can, focus on my own journey. I can invite 2 people a day. I can be here 5 years from now. And I just knew that if I did that, it was inevitable that I was going to find and develop those couple good leaders that had that same mindset, that same consistency, that same patience, that same, 2 invites a day. I just knew if I just did that enough and I had this little Facebook group of people where that every day I was saying, hey, what was your workout today? And everybody would comment and I would do a little leaderboard each week. I just kind of knew if I did that long enough, it was just kind of like, it's almost impossible that I'm not going to find a couple good rock stars that want to live that same type of lifestyle and want to create the freedom that I was seeing all these other coaches create. The first few years of the business, I was watching coaches like, Keith Callahan and Tommy Migrant, Josh Spencer. They were doing Bob Lucido. They were doing 2 exposures a day, 2 shares a day. They were doing personal development. They were getting their workouts in, crushing P90X.
Hey, between the 2 of you, John and Will, can you guys unload the dishwasher, please?
Come on, John and Will, you guys got to unload the dishwasher.
Oh, sorry.
No, I like that. I like being out and boss my nephews around through Zoom.
All right.
So I've been doing a lot of like one-on-one calls, with coaches, and just not just my person sponsored, but my person sponsored coaches and any coach in my downline. I don't care if they're my person sponsored or 10 levels down. Like I love doing one-on-one Zooms with coaches. And I've been doing that for probably almost 10 years now. And when I started doing that is when my business started to really grow. It was like a little extra thing that I needed to do where a lot of times, like if I got a new coach and they finally were doing their 2 invites a day, they were living the lifestyle, they loved being part of the community, they were commenting with their workouts, and their 2 invites eventually were leading to a couple people that wanted to join the group. Because we didn't invite to sell anything, by the way. Those 2 invites a day were not to sell something. Those 2 invites a day were to join a free Facebook group and just be part of a group that was just commenting every day whatever their workout was. So yeah, a lot of those people that were joining the group were were doing Beachbody already, but a lot of them weren't. And they just wanted to be part of a community, and they would comment every day with whatever, I went to the gym today and I did chest day. But then they were seeing other coaches in the group that were commenting, oh, I just did day 32 of P90X. I just finished day 19 of 21 Day Fix. So, these people that I had done my 2 invites and got them into this group, they weren't doing Beachbody, but they were seeing other people doing Beachbody and seeing the consistency in their results. And then naturally they were like, what is this stuff you guys are doing? What are these workouts you guys are doing? And then the sales started coming, but I didn't get so caught up in, there was no Success Club points, so I didn't have to worry about getting caught up in that. But I also didn't really get so caught up in like, oh, I need to be making money right now with Beachbody. It was anything I make with Beachbody is just monopoly money, like extra fake money. And that kept me from feeling any type of like stress or anxiety or, oh, I feel like I'm failing. I never felt like I was failing. I never felt like I was not doing a good enough job or it wasn't happening fast enough, because to me, it was like this little bit of monopoly money on the side. And as I started making an extra $50 a week, an extra $100 a week, I can remember, the little bit of like peace of mind that I would have around certain things, like going to dinner. I love steak. It's my favorite food. But going to dinner, like the steak is always like $25 or something. The burger was like 10 or 12 bucks. I wanted the steak way more than I wanted the burger, but I couldn't. I was like, oh man, I can't pay $25. All of a sudden, like now with Beachbody, I was making this monopoly money on the side. I was like, wow, like I can order the steak. I can get the steak and not feel like, oh my God, what am I doing? It was like, I'll just use my little monopoly money on the side. And I remember, going to the mall and wanting to get like a new pair of like sneakers, and they were like $100. And I was like, no way I can do that. But then I was like, wait, I got this little bit of extra monopoly money. And these little like stressors in life that like kept me from like living life the way I wanted and making the decisions I really wanted to do, which were being held back by money. All of a sudden they were starting to be broken. Those little things that were holding me back, those started breaking slowly. Like being worried about what I ordered at dinner, worrying about buying some cool sneakers. Like I remember the part of my like car needed to be replaced. I didn't stress it out about it. It was like, I'm just going to use this monopoly money. And it slowly kind of grew from there. So when I do these one-on-one calls with coaches, there's 3 questions I always ask. And they're the same 3 questions I've been asking for 10 years, probably. And the first is, what's your why? What's your why list is a better question. Because if they only have one why, that's like, oh, well, I want to be able to leave my job. Like they're missing out on the cool little tiny things that get to happen in the beginning. So the very first question that I ask on a one-on-one call is, what's your why? Let's create your why list. And just like I was just sharing about like the feeling that I got behind the why, like being able to go and order whatever I wanted at dinner, like that was a feeling that I had that changed from feeling stressed about like ordering steak, and like all of a sudden I didn't have that stress and I could just enjoy. And also like when I would go out after work with coworkers, buying a round of drinks was so stressful. All of a sudden it stopped being stressful. And I wanted to buy my coworkers a round of drinks without having to feel stressed about it. And all of a sudden, like slowly, because I had this little extra monopoly money on the side, I didn't feel stressed at all. And it just felt really good to be able to order a round of drinks for my coworkers and not think twice about it. So, that little example for me, that's going to be different for your coaches and for you, but there's going to be these little tiny things that stress us out right now that if we were making an extra just $50 a week, $100 a week, all of a sudden those stressors would go away and we would have more peace of mind. So, when I'm doing the one-on-one calls, I'm trying to help coaches create their why list, but I'm also trying to dig a little bit deeper to like, what's the feeling behind those little things on your why list, the emotion behind it. For me, it was the emotion of kind of felt a little stressed out ordering a round of drinks or getting something a little fancier for dinner. And then all of a sudden I didn't have that stress and I just had this peace of mind that I could just live my life without feeling constraint, well, all this constraint of financially. Those tiny little things that we don't even realize is like creating stress in our life, but in creating constraint in our life, that little bit of freedom starts coming through. So, that's the first question is what's your why? And let me like try to help you create a why list. And what's the emotion behind it? What's the feeling behind it? What's the negative emotion we're going to start to kind of dissipate? And what's the positive emotion you're going to start to kind of maybe feel more of? Peace of mind, whatever it is. Because when I would think about my why and think about Beachbody, it always like created an emotion. And still to this day it does. But even when I first became a coach, like just thinking about Beachbody and the why behind why I was doing this and what was coming down, going to be happening in the future, like evoked an emotion in me. Whereas I think most coaches, when you ask them what their why is or what their why list is, like there's no emotion behind it. Like they just say something that sounds cool that they hear other coaches say. But it's just a blank statement with no emotion. So when I'm doing these one-on-one calls with coaches that are deep in my downline that I've never talked to, or even coaches that are personally sponsored that I've talked to a million times, I want to see like emotion behind the little tiny things, their little whys. And it doesn't even have to be financial. Like it could simply be, what is working out each day, reading 5 minutes of personal development, doing gratitude, like those little things. What is that? What emotions is that evoking out of you? And what negative emotions is that helping you kind of have less of? So, then you can start to work up that why list to how would it feel to not have to worry about your cell phone bill? How would it, I don't have to worry too much about my cell phone bill because my parents pay it still. I'm still on my parents' plan. But some people, and I just found out actually that I'm not allowed to be on the plan anymore. My mom just told me when I was home 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, which is sad. So I'm going to have to start paying for that. But I'm not going to stress it, And then the next, like, okay, maybe I have car payments. Maybe I have car insurance. Maybe I want a new car. Maybe there's something that needs to be fixed on my car. So you're slowly starting to help kind of coaches see two things. One, just how they're going to feel physically and mentally, what negative emotions they're going to be moving away from and positive emotions they're going to be bringing in because of their own routine. And then same thing for financially. When they're starting to make a little bit of extra money, like what emotions are they going to be moving away from and what emotions are they going to be drawing in more of from those two things, the financial thing and just their own personal journey of having that routine. And then, that it'll slowly move up to helping pay, the rent or the mortgage. I mean, I remembered, like, I can still viscerally feel like the emotions that were going through my body when I would see a commission come through for Beachbody. That was the first time it was over $100 for the week. Unbelievable. It was like the coolest freaking thing I was like, I cannot believe I just made $100 this week. Like, it was just insane to me. And then I remember the first time I was able to make enough from Beachbody on the side in a month that paid my rent in Boston, which was $1,900. I was at $1,900 a month was what I was paying rent in Boston, and I had worked my way up. I was still working full time in accounting, but I had like been doing my 2 invites a day, not thinking about Success Club, not thinking about selling things, just having a free Facebook group, inviting 2 people a day to be a part of that group, posting a daily thread in there, inviting people to be co-leaders and share and be part of the group and share motivational quotes. When they were doing that, I'd say, you're doing an awesome job. The other people are benefiting from having you in here. Like, you're basically already doing what I do. Have you ever thought about being a coach? I just like that was it. I just had this two invites a day, a free group, inviting them to be co-leaders, inviting them to be coaches. And I didn't think about Success Club because it wasn't even invented at that point. And I can remember eventually getting to that point where, wow, like I have 1 or 2 like legit coaches on my right leg, and I have like 1 or 2 legit coaches on my left leg.
Okay.
That kind of like don't even really need me as much at this point because they're like just so in love with their own journey. They're like getting rid of a lot of negative emotions. I mean, not going to get rid of them completely, but those negative emotions of stress, anxiety were starting to get out of their life, and they were bringing in more like positive emotions from those 2 things, like their own routine and their own like financial journey, and knowing they were having an impact in other people's lives. And that, you know, I never pushed myself. I need to make more money right now. I need to make more money. It was like, I'm just going to enjoy this journey, and it's going to come at its own pace. And I think people could feel that from me when I would invite them and talk to them. They knew that I wasn't trying to sell them something and push them to do something. It was a genuine invitation to do and create a routine that I was already doing and that I would be doing 10 years later still, which I still am for the most part, you know, trying to consistently. So they could tell I wasn't just selling them something to sell them something. Like, I was something I really believed in. I loved being around other people that were reading personal development, doing their workouts. And I think people can tell the difference. And 99.9% of the time they said, not right now. And I would always say, no worries. Like, I'll be here whenever you're ready. If you know, no big deal. And I think a lot of times people like, they were like, okay, like, let me watch this guy a little bit closer now for a year or 2 years. You know, I just had a coach sign up a month or 2 ago, or not a coach, but just a challenger that I went to high school with. You know, she's like, I've been watching you for 12 years. She's been watching, you know? So this is like kind of the mindset that I'm trying to always help my coaches create, instead of this like get rich quick, I need to hit Success Club. And when they miss Success Club, they're like demoralized. It's like, no, like that's not why you signed up. You didn't sign up in this business to create more stress. You signed up in this business to get rid of stress and anxiety and create more of those positive emotions from doing your routine, helping other people, and creating some income that just kind of is going to happen on its own because of the routine you're creating and the 2 invites a day that you're doing. You know, I honestly don't think I would have become successful as a coach if I had signed up and been thrown into a team that was like, Success Club is the end all be all and you need to invite 100 people a day. I would have been like, I'll try it, but I would have never lasted. I would have missed Success Club and been like, I guess I'm not good at this. This isn't for me, which is a travesty because I think that happens so often now, where coaches like think they have to hit Success Club every single month. And if they miss a month, they're like, I'm not good at this. I guess I need to find something else. And they quit, which is terrible because that's not true. But that's the culture that a lot of teams have created, which just creates more stress and more doubt and a revolving door business of coaches quitting. So when I'm doing the one-on-one calls with coaches and helping them create that why, these are the things I'm talking to them about. And then I'm trying to help them figure out like, what are those negative emotions they want less of? And what are some more of the positive emotions? Like what would $50 a week feel like? What exactly would you do with the extra $50? What would an extra $100 a week feel like? What would it feel like to make $1,900 in a month on the side while you're still doing your full-time thing? An extra $1,900 that you can write a check to your landlord and be like, wow, I just paid a month of rent in Boston because of this side thing that is keeping me on track for my personal development, keeping me on track of my workouts, surrounding myself with more positive people, because I didn't really have that at my job. Everybody was just bitching all the time. Those are the things that I'm chatting to them about. And then it's like, okay, what, if you just kind of have that long-term mindset and you have fun with it and you just love the routine and you're inviting people and you're not trying to sell all the time, you're just inviting people to be part of a community, and inevitably it's just, you're gonna eventually find those one or two people that just love the community, want to invite other people to be a part of that, want that extra $100 a week, that extra $1,900 a month. The only way you can mess this business up is if you quit. The only way you won't find those people that really want to do it is if you give up and you're like constantly forcing Success Club and forcing rank and forcing elite. That makes it not fun. And then that's what leads to a lot of coaches like falling off track. But if you're just doing it because it's part of your routine and you're feeling better because you're doing personal development, you're inviting people to be a part of a community, a part of a party, it's inevitable that you're going to attract the right people. That's why we always say #inevitable. So, that's a big part of what I do on those one-on-one calls, is the mindset of your why and making sure that the why list, the small all the way up to the big, evokes emotion and helps get rid of some of the negative emotion that they feel in their life and bring in more of that positive. And then the idea of, okay, like, now that I know that first question, like what's their why list, what are the emotions, what, all that stuff, like the second question is, okay, great, like here's your list of the things. The second question is, do you know how you're going to achieve that? And the answer is simple: 1 or 2 leaders. Anything that's on your why list, from the tiny little things to the big things, like if you just focus on your routine, inviting 2 people a day, having a community where you're just checking in once a day, inevitably that's going to lead to people that are proof the products work, people that want to create more financial freedom in their own life, create more positive emotions in their own life, want to help other people. That's going to lead to coaches. And once you do that long enough, 1 or 2 of them are going to develop into true leaders that become leaders of leaders. And, then everything on that why list is going to be achieved, and then some. So 1 is, what's your why? The second is, do you know the big picture? And then the third is, what is going to hold you back from staying consistent, having fun with this, and not quitting? What is going to hold you back from just staying consistent long enough to inevitably attract those 2 or 3 amazing coaches that when you work with them, it doesn't even feel like work anymore. And you watch them develop into these amazing leaders. What is the obstacle? What is the fear? What is the doubt? What's going to get in the way? That's the third question. So, once those first 2 questions really, I think help create a strong why and strong belief, because the first one like creates this motivation and this why, and then the second creates this like clear tunnel vision. That's another hashtag we always use, #tunnel vision, of the big picture. So now they have the strong why, and they have a little bit stronger belief because they have this tunnel vision. You know, if a coach is not consistent, there's one of those two things is off. They're either they don't have a why that creates any type of emotion for them, or they don't have a very much belief that it's going to pay off, that the things they're doing each day are going to eventually get them to that why. So those first two questions, you know, help with that. What's your why? What's the big picture? And then the third is, okay, what is like the underlying shit that's like going to keep you from getting there? A lot of times it's just, I don't have enough time, or I don't even, you know, I don't have what these other coaches have. And, you know, I think for me, like that was, I don't have enough time, you know, like I'm already working at this big, busy CPA career thing. And we have busy season, and I'm working sometimes it's, you know, during the busy tax season, it's 70 hours a week. I don't have time. But because the focus wasn't on hitting Success Club, the focus was on just doing 2 invites a day, I never felt like totally like a failure. If Success Club was the end all be all, I would have felt like a failure. And then that would have led to less motivation. But because the focus was only to invite 2 people a day to my little free Facebook group, I always checked the box, no matter how crazy my job was. So I always felt successful, which created more motivation to keep going. And I just wish that, you know, I think there's good parts of Success Club, obviously, but there's definitely some things that I just wish weren't there that Success Club creates. I think there's so many coaches that base their success on Success Club, and that's it. And that sometimes leads to focusing on, you're still focusing on the right things when you're focused on Success Club, but you're not focused on some of the other things you should be focused on, like giving people an amazing experience. So I think that helps when coaches say, I don't think I have enough time. And you teach them that it's not the end all be all of Hit Success Club. Like, just have a little private Facebook group, a little community, and just invite just 2 people a day to hop in that group. And 90% of people are going to say no, but guess what? When they say no, you've just planted a seed. They're going to watch you a lot closer now. And if you're willing to stay consistent with your own routine and plant 2 seeds every day, inevitable. So, and sometimes the obstacle or the negative is like, I don't have enough, it's too expensive, you know, so I don't have enough time. And the other one is I don't have enough money. So for that one, it's, you know, you're paying $99 for the year for BOD, and $16 a month for your coach fee. And a lot of times, like, I would have coaches, instead of do Shakeology, I would have them do the $52. So Recover is $52, and it gives you 52 PV. So I say, you know, like, for $99 a year, you're going to get your workouts. You pay the $16 a month. You know, that's going to give you the discount on all the products. You can get your protein for $52. If you're feeling really stressed about that, you know, $65 a month, you know, then we need to really make this work. Because anybody who's stressed about $60 or $65, it's like, that's too much money. It's like, you really want to live the rest of your life worrying about like having that much financial stress? That $65 is like a month is stressful. I knew that I didn't want to go through life stressed out about $60 a month. So, that's, I just ask them, like, is that something that you really want your life to continue to feel that much stress about $60, $65, whatever it is? And then I ask them, like, do you think being a part of this community, being surrounded by these kind of people, we're doing, your workouts, following a meal plan, doing personal development, like, do you think that's having a positive impact on your life or a negative impact on your life? It's kind of a rhetorical question, but I think it gets people to see, like, this is, I can't afford not to do this. Like, I can afford not to do this, but if I do, I'm going to be a much less version of myself. I'm going to have much more stress in my life. And then I want to help them get to that point where they are, making $60 a month, which doesn't take a ton. Like you have 2 customers that are buying Shakeology every month. Boom, there's your $60 for the month commission. And so your protein is free, and so that's kind of like the 2 big obstacles I see are, like, what's the money thing or the time thing. Another one I see is, like, they just don't think like they're gonna be able to be good at it. They don't think they're gonna be able to find people that want to do it. And I try to tell them, like, that I hear no a lot, 99% of the time, but that's a seed that I'm planting, and I'm just going to continue to show up to my own routine on my stories, trying to share stuff on my social media that actually, like, I think is going to have an impact or, be valuable. And a lot of those seeds that I plant, like, those people start to watch a little closer, and then eventually they come around. And but in the meantime, like, I'm improving myself. Like, I'm feeling less stressed. I'm feeling more of those positive emotions. Even if I'm getting 0 yeses, it's still worth it because it's helping me just feel like a better version of myself. And I try to tell them that, like, probably the number one most important thing, the most impactful thing that I ever did in my life, that sounds dramatic, but it's true, is like learning what personal development was. I never heard anybody talk about personal development in high school. I never heard anybody talk about it in college. I never heard anybody talk about it in my 7 years in the accounting world. I never heard about it until I became a coach. And personal development is by far the most impactful thing that I've ever picked up. By far. So, I think when coaches, that third question, what's the obstacle? And their answer is fear a lot of times. I think that's where I think personal development's a big one. And I try to recommend them the book called The Slight Edge, because there was definitely part of me that when I first became a coach that looked at other successful coaches and thought, I don't think I can do what they're doing. Like, they have something I don't have. Or back then I was in my 20s and all the coaches were like in their 40s. It was a very different world, and so I felt kind of younger than a lot of those other coaches. It was a lot of dudes too. It was like probably 60% guys. And I would, that was like intimidating a little bit for like a little, young 25-year-old boy to see the successful coaches are these like 40-year-old men. I was like, maybe this is, I don't know if I'll be good at this. And I read a book called The Slight Edge. which is what I try to always recommend to my coaches. And I listened to a CD, which is on YouTube now, called How to Build Your Network Marketing Business. So those two things I always try to recommend to coaches that their obstacle is fear or doubt, because those two things obliterated any fear or doubt that I had. The Slight Edge, totally flipped the script on what I thought it took to be successful. I used to think that it took these heroic efforts to be successful. And when I read The Slight Edge, I understood that that's not the case. What it takes to be successful is tiny, almost like mundane, inconsequential actions every single day, but done over an extended period of time consistently. 2 invites a day. All of a sudden, like, my idea of what success was and what it took to be successful flipped. And because it wasn't these heroic acts, it was this tiny, mundane, stupid little thing that I could do no matter what. I was like, I can do that. I can be consistent. Like, I might not be as skilled as some of these other people, but I can make up for it with consistency, doing these mundane little things. That was a big mindset shift for me when I read that book. And then listening to How to Build Your Network Marketing Business, Jim Rohn had, in that CD, like, he has a ton of those tiny little flip the script on what it takes to be successful. And I just, from reading that book and listening to that DVD or that CD over and over, like, I didn't have doubt anymore. There was like just no doubt that I was going to find a handful of really great coaches that wanted to do this instead of be stressed and stuck at a job that they didn't like. It just obliterated the doubt. So when I'm doing those calls, those one-on-one calls, that's a big part of what especially if they're saying fear and doubt, and I'm not good enough, or I don't think this is going to work for me. That's when, I start really trying to get them to pick up that book and listen to that How to Build Your Network Marketing Business, but not just read it once and listen to that CD once, but like over and over and over and over again. Because in my car, I had that CD in the car, and I just listened whenever I drove. Every time I drove to work, and a lot of times I had to drive to New Hampshire, so it was like a 50-minute drive there and back, and the DVD is about 50 minutes. So like, I would listen to the whole thing on the way to work, and then I would listen to it again on the way back. And it's like, he's a very entertaining guy and makes jokes and it's fun. And so that, I think, just listening to that probably over 100 times, like, obliterated all the doubt that I had. And it was like, of course I'm going to be successful. Like, what, the only way I'm not is if I give up. And it's not like I'm going to get exhausted and tired by what this takes. Like, I can invite 2 people a day and not feel like exhausted by that. I can, even if I'm working 70 hours that week. And so that's what I try to do with my new coaches and veteran coaches, is like, try to help them get back on track with that stuff. So those are and this is the end of the call. So just to recap those 3 questions, what is your why? And creating a why list, and really digging beyond just things on a list, like the emotions, like the negative emotions that we're going to feel less of, and the positive emotions that they're going to feel more of. And then, that big picture of 2 or 3 great leaders, like, just keeping it simple. And then what's going to hold you back from doing 2 invites a day and doing that every day for 5 years? What's going to hold you back from doing that? And if it's money or time or fear or doubt, then you can tackle, those things with that person. And I think a lot of times, what's going to happen when you do these little one-on-one calls with your coaches, and just as importantly, doing it with all the coaches in your downline, taking that time to do those little one-on-one calls, and you do these 3 questions with them. Like, when they get off the call, their why fuel is going to be so much stronger. You know, the emotion behind their why is going to be so much stronger, which is going to help them have more motivation to show up. And their belief is going to be a lot stronger. You know, those little seeds of doubt aren't going to be growing in the garden like as much as they were before. You're going to be pulling out a lot of those weeds and planting some of these new ideas of what it takes to be successful. Not these heroic acts, but these tiny little things of planting 2 seeds a day, and just doing those consistently over, you know, a few years. And every time I see a coach that all of a sudden their why is stronger and their belief is stronger, their consistency becomes stronger, and then that inevitably starts to lead to more success. Anytime you see a coach on your team that's struggling with consistency, there's one of those 2 things is off. They either there's no emotion behind their why, or their belief isn't strong enough. So once you go in and you fix those 2 things, the why and the belief, the rest of it, the consistency, like, kind of takes care of itself. All right, that is your September 27th team call. I guess this thing doesn't kick us off at 45 minutes, but do you guys have any questions? I'm gonna look at the chat here. Natalie's parents booted her from the cell phone plan. That is sad. I'm about to know what that feels like any day. Third question was, what is your biggest obstacle? Biggest distraction, biggest doubt, biggest fear? What is the thing that's going to get in the way of, you know, inviting, like, what's going to get in the way of your own routine and inviting at least 2 people a day to be part of your bod group or Facebook? What is the thing? What is it at time? Is it money that's your biggest distraction? Is it self-doubt? You know, that's that third question. Number 2 was, what's the big picture? So what's number 1 is what's your why? Number 2 is what's the big picture? And, you know, that's the Keith Callahan thing. You know, the big picture is just doing the mundane, unsexy, boring things every day long enough. You know, you're inevitably going to attract those couple good rock star leaders that are willing to do those unsexy, mundane, boring things as well. It's just kind of how it works. The only way you won't is if you just stop doing those things. So yeah, that's number 2 is what's the big picture. I think that helps people kind of get out of the thought process of success club is the end all be all, which helps. Well, cool. All right. I am going to see if I can set up some one-on-one Zooms and do 2 of my own invites to my private Facebook group. We got a little 7-day challenge in our Facebook group going right now. I've been kind of doing this cool little thing where I like give people like a little, if they comment, like I'll do a 21-day challenge. If they comment 15 out of the 21 days, I'll enter their name in a raffle and give out, like, whoever wins the raffle, I'll Venmo them $50 towards a Beachbody product. So they have to buy the Beachbody product, but once they buy it and like send me what they bought, then I'll Venmo them $50 towards whatever they want. And actually the girl that won last month was pretty funny. She was like, I was just about to cancel my Beachbody on demand because I hadn't been using it, but now that you're giving me this $50, I'm going to renew it. So that kind of was kind of cool. So yeah, it doesn't even have to be $50. You could do like just $20, something just to make it a little extra fun. I think it like helps people be a little bit more consistent. Cool. All right. Thanks for hopping on, guys. I will post the recording soon. Let's go. Let's go plant some seeds. See you guys.